Hi and welcome to episode 12 of Every Semicolon. I was quickly looking over the previous video and I noticed a couple of things that you might have noticed when I did the test of the root bone. I didn't actually set the root bone for the beard to the bone on the other dwarf object. Either way, not really a big deal. Also didn't actually check to see if the root bone was accessible via script. I just did a Google search and let that decide for me. So I might just have a quick look now. Just go here and just have a look at a skin mesh renderer. Yeah. Okay. I mean, either way, I would have gone with the solution I went with, but I thought it would be, it wasn't really a good look to do a test that wasn't testing anything. So thought I'd point that out. Also noticed I hadn't gone through and set the material color for these materials, so we'll do that now. Set them all to white. Now you can see our dwarves have a bit more brightness to them, a bit more color. Okay, so I want this to be again another fairly quick episode. Might just go in here and make an object for the dwarves, or we'll just call it dwarves now. Dwarves, and throw our 4 dwarves underneath that. Clean up the level a little bit. Okay, now we want to. I was thinking actually about this whole moving platforms things. I mean, it may not be in the game until later on, later levels, but I thought I might just throw something in there now, make it move on like a sine curve or something like that. Now the challenge is in doing that, that all the objects on the platform need to move. So let's start thinking about what's required for that. So basically we're going to need, probably under the platforms node, we're going to need a node for each platform itself. So we'll call this platform 1 and we'll put that under there. And now we start, we're going to need to start putting stuff underneath the platform object, which is not a big deal. It's just a different way of organizing the scene. So we can put our dwarves under that platform, and that is everything required for that platform. So let's do the same for the others. Platform 2, platform 3, platform 4. Okay, so platform 1 ended up being this one, which is on the positive Z side. Let's go, let's do it in a sort of clockwise way, pretending, okay, yeah, that one. That one and that one, and we'll make one for the center platform. So one of the challenges of this project will be building levels. I want the levels to be, well, I want there to be a lot of levels, I guess, essentially, and I want them to be, a nice convention for all the levels. I don't want to do it manually. I don't want to have to go in here and build each of these levels by hand necessarily every single time. I'm going to be designing each level by hand. Obviously, I want to design the placement and the movement of platforms, the structure. But it'd be nice in a way to be able to just go, give me a platform with a ballista and this many dwarves and some random stuff, and it gives me a platform I can just go up on a 2D view and just slot it in somewhere. And it will orientate it correctly for me and just do all that sort of stuff, and I can just focus on building mainly the fortress for each level, and then maybe just defining the range of movement for a platform, and that's going to be something that obviously we'll do as part of this project. So we'll get to that, and that'll be obviously difficult. That'll just be a bit of a we'll have to do some randomization stuff, but also constrained randomization. Weapons will be placed, I guess, in a center position, some variants perhaps, and then randomizing placement of grass and detail objects, and the dwarves will be placed based on the weapon and the objects around and that sort of thing, and maybe even generate some little paths for them to wander around in that won't conflict with any other objects. It might even be easier to place the dwarves first and then place the objects and check the paths and see if the objects intersect with those paths and so forth. Also, the pathfinding could be used potentially, I don't know, probably not. We wouldn't bother with the pathfinding in Unity. It's something we might look at as part of this video series, just to investigate every possibility, but from what I've seen of the navigation system, it's probably not going to be that ideal for just this little area with object avoidance. Okay, so weapons. Catapult 4 into platform 2, catapult 1 into platform 3, catapult 2 into platform 4. I might just rename those to avoid confusion. Don't really need the numbers on those, since the platforms now have the numbers. Put the fortress underneath the center platform. The grass is an empty object, which we don't need that. Directional light and clouds are all separate from the platforms, and we don't need the weapons, and I don't know what this point light is, so we delete that. Okay. Now we have our objects sorted into these platforms, and I can now create a platform script if I don't already have one. I do. Platform 1, platform script. Where does the platform script go? Obviously onto the platform. Right. So this is going to move onto the parent here. What does it do currently? Enemy platform, min tracking camera distance. Okay, blah blah blah. Right. And this is used on the game manager or the level? Or nothing. We'll just jump into the code and see where this is referenced. Shift F12 in Visual Studio to do that. Okay, so it's not referenced. Camera stopping trigger, blah blah blah. I don't think this is actually. Oh no, yeah, that's right. Okay, this defines, for example, in the for the center platform, we have our 55 meter radius collider generated at runtime. I'll show that from I guess episode 3 or so. Yep. Basically defining when the camera hits that, it stops. So camera follows in the projectile, hits that, stops, and we see the carnage. So I've got to keep that, but I'm going to move it up. Unity would be amazing if it had the ability to do what I just tried to do. That would be fantastic. There are scripts out there. There are editor windows for copying components with and there is some stuff in the scripting copy component. You could create a component of the same type on the destination and use copy serialize to pretty much bring it across. We might just have a quick look at doing something like that. Just grab space measure. Let's copy component. Now there'd be better ways to set this all up so that it would be not a window, perhaps another simpler way of doing it. Maybe even somehow intercepting the drag and drop call to make it work like I tried to have it work before. But this will do the job. You can also set it up to show which serialized values are in the which public fields and stuff are in the component, and then just copy those. But for now, I'm just a quick thing, whipping something together, and we'll get to I don't need all that stuff, and we'll get to maybe improving it later on as part of this project. And really a lot of this would be, I think, useful for people so that they can see how easy it is in a lot of ways to build a lot of the stuff you see on sort of the asset store and that sort of thing. So you don't necessarily need to buy everything in your project. Sometimes it's worth having a look and trying to create it yourself, because it's not difficult for a lot of the stuff. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff on the store that's had tons of work put into it and is fantastic. But a lot of the smaller stuff, and I appreciate that people do it and put it on there, and that's fantastic. And there's a lot of guys out there who aren't programmers and would love to just spend a couple of bucks on picking up a little window, and I think it's great that people are putting them on there for that audience. But for those with a bit of scripting know-how and motivation to learn, a good editor window, a good piece of functionality that's missing from Unity. You look at Unity and you say, I wish it could do this. Make it do that. That's a great way to learn. It's a great motivation to code. So, and then you might end up with something unique and new, and you could put that on the store and maybe make a little bit of money out of it. Okay, so let's do that. Don't want any of that, and don't want any of that. Alright, so let's put a button in. GUI layout. Copy component. We'll just show you this only if if these two aren't null, then the button is pressed. So what this is going to do is, because if I don't have anything in the copy field yet, it'll get to this part of the if statement, it'll say no, it's null, and it won't continue. If the paste has nothing in it and the copy does, then it'll get to this part and say no, no paste, and it won't continue. If it has both of these, it will get to the point of checking this, and that will actually create the button. So until it's got both of these, the button won't actually be shown. And that's a cool little trick with if statements. If you weren't aware of that, you can actually rely on So for example, I could have copy equals null, and then go and copy dot active equals, and I can be sure that at this point copy is not null, and therefore I can access a one of its fields, because if copy was null, it wouldn't have reached this second part of the if statement here. Okay, so copying from copy to paste. I might actually make this game object paste 2. Alright, and let's make a utils method for this. Objects general. We'll put it under objects. No, we'll get next preflipping series, right? Okay. This is getting a bit not really all that manageable. I might try and clean it up at some point, but it's still not a big deal. We can always go in here and see all the different methods. Okay, public void copy component to game object. Copy component to game object. Alright. U dot objects dot copy. Oh, it hasn't compiled, or I do not make it. Should probably make this a static class so that I don't get the opportunity to make that mistake again, or then force all the methods to be static. Okay. Oh, too much control tabbing. Paste 2. Alright. So what we want to do now is get the value, get the type of that component. So now that might return. Let's see what that gives us. Alright, let's just see what that outputs. Go to our platform. Rock platform, large platform. Okay, that's cool. Get type to string. I'm going to get to string. Say. What we actually want is the oh no, sorry, I put the wrong thing. Well, let's just do this anyway. Platform. Alright, that's what we want. So we're going to need anything besides. No, I'll just get straight up with the string. Component type. String. Alright, I'm going to use Unity's method for getting components via a type name to see if this game object already has a component of that type. We'll go to component. Paste component equals to game object dot get component type. Now if paste component equals null, meaning that if this game object did not have a component of that type, we're going to create one. To game object dot add component and paste component equals add component type. Now we'll use that editor utility copy serialize, we saw this before. Copy serialize from copy component to paste component. Alright, let's see how that goes. Alright, that crashed Unity. Okay. That can be a frustrating thing to debug because you don't know necessarily what caused that to happen. We can look through the code and see if we can figure it out, which would be the most ideal debugging solution. But it's possible we'll have to debug it through trial and error of so I mean it's probably going to be something to do with the copy serialized method. Yeah, so we'll first have a look at the results of this, and if this crashes we'll know it's actually something up here. Not the ideal way of debugging. This is one of Unity's flaws, I guess. It's and I can use mono develop, sure, to do debugging and step through the code. But I just don't like mono develop. Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about that. Yeah, using Unity like this probably makes you a better debugger in a lot of ways. You know, it's maybe not better in terms of your techniques, or you know, in modern day techniques of, you know, I'm not going. Okay, unfortunately I realized much later than I should have that you might have noticed just when I was talking about debugging, I hit the F9 key. Well, you wouldn't have noticed I hit the F9 key, but I did. I was going to show you, setting a breakpoint in Visual Studio. Unfortunately, hitting F9 apparently pauses the recorder. Alright, so what I've been working on, I was trying to think of what to do. I was going to just delete all the code and rewrite it, pretend it never happened, start the video from scratch, but you know what, it's not really a big deal, and I don't really want to do that. What I've been working on is getting that copy component window working. So what I'm going to do is just talk about what I've done and go over all the code, and you know, it's unfortunate, and I appreciate that, but all I've been doing is writing code, and I'm sure that you'll appreciate, those out there who aren't interested in seeing every line of code written, maybe you'll appreciate the fact that I accidentally paused the video, and those who do want to, who learn to code, you know, I'm going to leave. You can peruse this code, and I'm going to run over the whole thing right now, relatively quickly, much quicker than it was to write it. Basically, the result of I took out the editor utility copy serialized thing because I couldn't quite get that to not crash. I had a look at some you know, pages like this one here, where old mate talked about, you know, crashing, and he has a little script here that is pretty much exactly the same as what I wrote. But you know what? It crashed. Both of those components were not null and existed and should have been fine, but weren't. So this is my solution. I wrote just a quick little reflection method here. So copy serialized values. Ignore the list for now. I'll talk about that in a moment. But basically, I get the types of both components, and then I get all the fields in them using the system.reflection namespace. I can get the fields, and fields are basically in C# the public variables of a script or a object. So then I run through all the copy from fields and run through all the copy to fields, and if they have the same name and the same type, I set the value of that field in the copy to component to the value of that field in the copy from component, and then I break out of that loop and do it again for the next field in copy from. So then I decided I would support setting which values you wanted to copy, so passing in a list, and if that list is not null, and here I actually wrote a comment for one of the first times in a long time, so if values to copy is if it doesn't contain, so if that's why that's there, if it doesn't contain the name of this field in copy from fields in this iteration of the loop, then we skip it. We skip this part here and we move on to the next iteration. So it's a way of just setting which values you want to copy. So what I did in the copy component window was I set up, I also added a delete original. I don't believe this is in the video. Added a delete original bool, so it would then delete the original one, kind of like cut and paste rather than copy and paste. So you can set whether or not to do that. And then I made a previous copy variable here to keep track of when the component changes. And at that point, I've got these two arrays here, one an array of bools and one an array of strings. And what they're going to be is the same length, the length of all the fields in the type that we're copying from. So I get the type of the component here that we put in, and I get all the fields out of it, and I make a bool array and a string array of the same length. I run through all the fields and I set the string array values to that of the field names, and I set by default the bools to true. Then I can come down here and run through all of those strings we've got, and draw a toggle field which sets the value of the bool for that index, and shows the name of the field. So what it does, I'll show in a moment, is list out all the fields in that component with a little toggle box next to them, which you can then set. And then when I go to run the copy component script, it will create a new list, run through all the strings and find the ones that are true, and add them to the list, and then pass that through to our copy component to game object script, which then passes that list on through to copy serialized values, which checks it down here. And then I've got the if delete original, destroy immediate, copy. Okay, so again, there's all the code. Feel free to look over that, and if you are interested in the code, and here's all the code for our copy component to game object and copy serialized values. Okay, so the result was, and this is probably I wasn't necessarily trying to do a short video, but this is going to help it be a bit shorter. I was sort of on a tangent from my original purpose, so a bit frustrating still. I really didn't want to have that happen. At least it wasn't too bad. I didn't lose anything significant. So okay, so the platform script. So I made this little test here. You can see here I'll remove that platform. It was actually, I was running this test and talking about all this stuff, and then I had a look and thought, wait a minute, this has only been 22 minutes this episode. And then I looked at the time for a bit longer and I thought, that time's not changing. What I've gone and done now is removed all the shortcut keys from the recording program, so that can never happen again. Anything like that, hopefully. That was, yeah, not pleasant. Yeah, so as I drag the component in here, it'll change from null to platform, and then bring up these two. So it'll then find all the fields and show this stuff up. So now if I drag on the game object to copy to, look at get the button, and see I've got here, I've got it ticked and 99, which is different from the defaults of unticked and 100. So I can untick that one and go copy component, we can go to the game object and see that it's copied across the tick, but it hasn't copied across the 99. And now I can copy across the 99 as well, or I can copy across nothing. See? So I'll copy it across and I'll delete the original. Bloop. So that's probably yep, so it's gone now, and the values are copied across. So I used that on all the platforms, copying across the platform component to here and deleting it on the original. So I did that for each platform. So I'd like to use the excuse that it's 5:30 AM right now for why I made that mistake, and it's possibly a factor. But ultimately, I looked at that time a couple of times in the I just didn't realize it wasn't changing. I thought I was doing really well, and must have been writing a lot of code in a short period of time. Yeah, disappointing, but you know what? It's not a big deal. All the code is there. I've run through it. It wasn't really that exciting. It was a bit of reflection stuff, which you may not have seen before, and I'll just quickly go over some of the reflection stuff. So field info is a reflection type that basically contains information about a field. So a field is a public variable in an object. And then you can get the name of the field, you can get the field type, you can get all sorts of information about that field, and then you can use set value or get value, and also set value direct and things like that. Basically to set the value of a field of that type in an object. So that's what I'm doing here. So you can do the same with methods and properties. In this case we only care about fields, because in a component those are the only things exposed in the inspector that can change. Well, it's not necessarily. Well, it is pretty much. These are the serializable values, the public ones, so public fields. So that's yeah. But you can write all sorts of complicated stuff for copying things or revealing information about objects. I wrote once a save game system for you can give it components you want to save values for and load values from, and it will list out all their fields, and you can tick the things you want to save, and then it will pack all that up and save it, and then and when you load up the game again, it will load that, and it'll find all the game object names and types and everything, and put all the values back in using reflection. And I think I've seen it, an Easy Game Saver, I think it's called Easy Game Saver. I'm not sure if that's still a thing. I remember a year or two ago it was, before the asset store. And that's probably still around. I think he's still making stuff. And it's similar to how that works. Okay, so let's do our little sine curve moving thing we're talking about. What feels like forever ago, because it was for me, but not so much for you. Lucky guys. Alright, platform 1. So let's do it. Let's put in a up down move range. That sounds like a great name for a variable. By default, nothing. Up, down, move, up down move speed, 0f. Alright. Now fields and properties. Whoop. Alright. Then we want to get this transform dot so how do we want to do this? Let's first translate. Do I want to do up down move range? Is that what I want to do? Let me just change this for a moment. I think I might just want to do something like up, down, move, distance. So up, down, move speed is greater than 0f. Translate mathf dot sine time dot time times vector 3 dot up. Alright, let's have a little squiz at how messy that ends up being. So what's it's a pretty massive movement. It's going negative 2000, positive 2000 or so. Okay, and what are we using here? Translating, it's probably not really gonna help matters too much. I don't really want to set it to necessarily just the position. Just set the position straight up because I want to be able to set its initial height to something other than 0. But for now, I mean that's working pretty well. So let's go back into here. I'm not using the speed at the moment. If we that by speed. Set platform. So that's not really going to change this. Well, okay, that's actually working pretty well. 10. Look at that. Blip, 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 blip. Alright. That's probably going to be a more typical speed or slower even. And it's moving up and down between positive and negative 10, which is alright. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's sort of the effect I'm after. I think the camera will probably have to move with it, so we've got to get that going. Oh, that's interesting actually. We're seeing now that there is an issue with our little temporary things, and those are one I've got to remember at the start of one of these videos to work on getting that stuff out of the just gone, because I hate those stupid sliders. But for now, once again, because I'm not going to do it at this point in time, we'll go back into we'll find our sliders. There's a slider. What are they called? Horizontal. They're called sliders, right? Yeah, slider. In current project. Vertical slider, here's one. Alright. So what this is telling us is that this is wrong. Negative is not right. What we're going to do is the let's try pixel height minus that. Yeah, that's better. So basically what that was doing was, let's say, what's my just going to display the resolution here. Sure can't. Basically, let's say this is 600 pixels, which certainly isn't. but it could be. I mean, this is not my typical resolution. Yep, it could be 600 pixels, say. I'll just pause this for a sec. Go back here. Okay, so at this point here, what I was doing before was I was using this screen space position.y, which was going from a different, going from the bottom instead of the top. You know, so the GUI elements go from the top, 0 being up here, and this screen space or screen point goes from the bottom. So it was saying that position in screen space was, say, 200 pixels from the bottom. So I was passing that directly into my GUI element, and it was saying 200 meters from the top. So to fix that, what I've done is got 600 being the pixel height of the camera, and so I've got 600, and what I've done is subtracted the screen space position it's given me. So 200 from 600 is 400, which puts it in the right position. Now let's say it was 400 up from the bottom, 600 minus 400 is 200, and it would then be in the right position. So that's a handy little thing perhaps. And I've got to fix up this thing. Basically, when it's getting lengthened after being shortened, I'm not filling out the little bits and pieces on it, so there's something that needs to be done. Bring down the power a bit. Right over the top. And the angle of my ballista bolt is not really that ideal either, is it? I mean, my ballista is on an angle, but the bolt comes out straight. It looks stupid. So we're going to have to do something about that. What I'm actually going to do is this bolt here, right? It's part of. It's just something I put there in that reference position just for looks. But what it's actually going to be is sort of, and I'll probably leave it as something separate from the bolt that actually gets fired. But it'll be a toggleable visual element that will show when there's a bolt loaded, ready to fire, and will not show when the bolt's been fired and there's not one loaded. So as I showed in the last video, there'll be a stack of ammo here, a stack of bolts, and as the things get fired, another one will come off that stack and into the ballista, showing this visual element, and then I'll fire and it will hide this, and our new bolt will be instantiated and shot in that direction. So that's how that will work. This angle here of the bolt anchor, and let's get our bolt. Right. So it's firing off. I'm firing it in a straight direction currently. Bolt instantiation point. Instantiated bullet uses bolt instantiation point dot rotation. So I am actually setting its rotation to something, but it's apparently not working all that well. Let's have a look and see what happens in slow-mo. That wasn't really slow-mo, but you get the idea. Okay, it's come out flat, 270. So what it's done is, let's have a look at that. Nothing. It's done nothing related to anything. That's the bolt graphic. Okay. Ballista bolt itself It's got a 180 degree Y rotation and basically 0 for the X and Z. So the bolt instantiation point, bolt creation point, is here, and fair enough, I mean that's exactly right. Let's stop this. So bolt creation point ref node gets, well, it must get changed at runtime. Oh, interesting. So it's losing its rotation. Let's have a look again, find the references to that and see where or why that might be happening. Doesn't seem to be any reason for it. Weapon of bullet instantiation point dot position. Oh no, yeah, still nothing's not setting it. Yeah, I can't see anything there that's setting the rotation or anything to do with the bullet instantiation point changing, so that's interesting. It should be maintaining that rotation. Start at pause, hit play. There we go. Isn't that strange? It's getting reparented as well. Oh, here we go. Okay, my object startup script, which I wrote in episode 1, I think, is messing me up. So I have set local rotation ticked for some reason. I don't want that. Let's go back to our ballista prefab, throw that in. Just run down to ref nodes, go here, untick that, go back to ballista. Wow. Delete those things and apply that. Okay, save that and I hit play. Now, hopefully our ref node is not rotated. And when we fire, whoa, that's not an improvement. And in fact, I have no idea why it was going so far. Let's have a look. Yeah, right. So that's a pretty massive shot in that height. So pause it for a sec. Well, we can't really pause it. We'll just play it. All right. Now it's coming out with that rotation. Okay, so it gets the rotation from the bullet creation point, correct? Correct. And it's looking up that way. So the bullet creation point's rotation is not what we want. We want to change it to be, we'll just rotate it 90 degrees that direction. Okay, so now it's forward. Here's forward. Up is it's up, and right is it's right. And we've just done something wrong. Undo all that and set this back to the same as the prefab. Drop in our ballista prefab again, and instead do it on it. So I'm just rotating it on one axis and holding down Control to snap. So my snap settings, I believe I've set it to 45 degrees for rotation, which is typically what I do because I don't normally have a need to do snapping if I'm not snapping 45 or 90 degrees or some derivation of 45 degrees. So I'll apply that, delete that prefab, jump back down to our creation point, make sure it's the same. It's not, we'll reset that. Sorry, reset to prefab, revert to prefab. Alright, that's better. Now we'll play it. There we go. And look at it sail. So now with that, it's not, maybe the center of mass should have been still further up. It doesn't really seem to be In fact, now I don't know what's going on. Has my Unity crashed or frozen? Interesting. I guess I'll pause it for a sec while I shut down Unity and reopen it. Intentional pauses are much better than unintentional pauses. Alright, so ballista bolt fires in a straight direction. That was a unexpected thing to do, as was the copy component window, which is now, it's fairly full featured, so that's pretty cool. You can set which things to copy. You can copy a component to an object that doesn't have that component, and it will then create that component and copy the values, and you can choose to delete the original. You can also copy to a component with the, or copy to a game object with the component already existing. So yeah, nice little window. That one's all good to go, and I'm sure hopefully some people will watch this video and you know, maybe, I don't know if that's actually on the store or something like that, and you know, save themselves a couple of bucks, write it themselves, you know, and add more to it. You know, there's plenty you can do with that sort of thing, and you could make a another way of making that happen outside of a window. You know, you could do a you know, I'm sure I don't want to, you know, I bet you there's probably better stuff on here. You know, they do more things. So you know, component copy is probably great. You know, it probably, you know, you can paste onto multiple game objects. But you know, these are things you can look at something like this and say, hey, I now think I know how to do all this sort of thing. And I'm sort of, you know, not to point out, I mean, this looks like a great little window. You know, obviously you can give it a game object, click a game object, and choose things to copy and copy it to another one. It probably looks like you select a thing, a game object, choose what to copy, and then select another thing and paste. Yeah, so that's cool. I mean, you can see here they've done a little menu item thing, so that's pretty sweet. Yeah, and they're only charging $5, so that's a great price there. But you know, these things are something you can create. Whoa. Yeah, this one's even got, you know, all sorts of crazy stuff all over it. So, you know, there's great stuff on the store, and yeah, they were reasonable prices, $5 and $10 respectively. So, you know, those are great ways to enhance your Unity experience. But because all my device is going off because I got an email. But you know, you can create those things yourself, you know, and that's a really great way to learn. And if you have any, again, I don't know if I've mentioned this in what actually was captured in this video, but I'll just reiterate perhaps that you know, it's a great way to learn to write code through picking something out in the editor that bugs you, that should be easier, that, you know, it's just frustrating, and writing something to fix that problem. You know, making a new editor window or new little menu item in this drop down, or you know, anywhere to drag and drop something, or something in the scene view to make things easier to do. And you can write something like that and make it, you know, fairly full featured and polished and nice, and then put it on the asset store. You know, if you want, it's a way to also make money. You know, a little money for people that would appreciate the hard work you've done in enhancing the Unity experience. So you know, I think from these videos so far, you've probably learnt quite a bit about creating different windows and shortcut things and all that sort of stuff. So you can easily get started on doing your own stuff, and I'd love to hear about, you know, anything that people make, perhaps inspired by seeing this stuff and getting some motivation. Anyway, I'll end this video now. Thanks for watching. I apologize for pausing the video unintentionally and writing all that awesome code with no one to see or hear my ramblings. But I wasn't saying anything that interesting, or you know, doing anything that I didn't show afterwards. So nothing was really missed. Yeah, and okay, so next video, perhaps I'll get rid of this these two sliders and start doing a catapult can be dragged around. I might also delay that until I have the articulated catapult, articulatable catapult. And yeah, I mean, it'd be great to start getting these dwarves doing some stuff, but you know, I gotta do things based around when I receive artwork, and there's still plenty to do. I still might take it to the point of, I might, you know, next video do a little menu just to select do a couple of levels, make it a selectable you know, level, which level to play, and start to building that side of the game, because that's very important too. And you know, you can't really disqualify how important it is to I don't know if that was even made any sense, but how important it is to have sort of a running game. You know, have menu systems and have a playable product from an early stage. I think it's really important. You look at something like what was I saying recently? You know, Bastion. You know, Bastion at PAX, they showed off an early prototype of the game, and yeah, and they stress the importance of, to them, having a playable product from early on, something that, you know, even in the earliest iterations of the game, could be, you know, a few weeks in, you could play it and it had some sort of scoring, it had some sort of purpose, and that's a really, I think, important maybe distinction between products that can capture their important essence and capture figure out what their right control system is and get all that stuff ironed out early on, and that's really probably integral into getting a really nice product in the end. So the idea being, I guess, the way I see it, is if this was playable now, you know, if you could get in here and play through this level and it was sort of fun, and you made this a bit more challenging, and you had a couple of different weapon types going, had a scoring system and stuff like that, then, you know, myself and Shane and as it started evolving, and maybe I can get some testers on, you can start playing through it, and you can start picking out what things are frustrating and fix those earlier on, so that the product is solid. With each iteration, you know, you add a new feature, then iron out that feature for the next iteration, and then by the end of the product, there's less to do in terms of making it a fun game, because you've been making it a fun game the entire time. So I think that's a really really interesting sort of development methodology that I'm going to try and incorporate into a lot of the products that I'm doing now, but I'll definitely start pushing that for this one, so that we can, and also it'll just be more fun to be able to see this up and running earlier on, and I might even put out a build onto the net in one of the videos to allow people to play what's there and give feedback and start working off that. Okay, so again, thanks a lot for watching. Episode 13 will hopefully be quite soon. My plan was to do another video tomorrow, so we'll see if that, well, actually it's 6:06 AM, so today at some point I might do another video. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned.